We begin today's service on page 103 with Birchat HaShachar. Please rise if you're able. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasech v'vina lavchin ben yom v'ein laila. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani b'tzomo. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani ben chorin. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani Yisrael. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Bokeach Ivrim. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam al b'sharmim. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam atir asurim. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokev kefufim. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rekal haaretz al hamayim. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzrei gaver. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'as likot sarki. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oz Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ot Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanotein la'oev koach. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu. U'teneinu hayom v'chol yom l'chin l'chesed rachamim b'necha v'nechoin v'tigmalenu chasadim tovim. Baruch Adonai gomer chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael. You may be seated. We continue page 12 with Psalm 92. Hayom yom Shabbat Kodesh shevu omrim b'vet hamikdash mizmor shir le'yom haShabbat. Oh, Ninuvun b'seved hashinim chanim yu lagid kirshel naitzuri v'lo havlatabo. Page 120, Psalm 30. Mizmor shir chanukah b'ile David. Hafach mispedi l'mochali pitak tesaki v'ezkini simcha laman yezemecha v'adv'ledom Adonai Elohai le'olam odeka. We rise, page 122, with Baruch She'amar. Yai lai 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 ya la lai la lai la lai yai la lai 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 ya la lai la lai la la lai yai lai la lai la 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 lai. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch She'amar v'hayaolam. Baruch Hu, Baruch Hoseh v'Reishit, Baruch Omer v'Yoseh, Baruch Gozer Kayem, Baruch Mirachim al haaretz, Baruch Mirachim al habriot, Baruch Mishalem Sachar Tov l'Reyav, Baruch Hailad v'Kayam Lanetzach. Baruch Podeu Matzio, Baruch Shemo. Yai lai 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 lai, ya la lai la lai la lai, yai la lai lai lai, ya la lai la lai la la lai, yai lai la 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 lai, ya la lai la 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 lai, ya la lai lai la lai la la lai lai, yai lai lai la lai, ya la lai la lai, ya la lai la la lai, ya la lai la 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 lai. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech ho'el v'haracham mahula b'fiyam ha'mishubach u'mafarar b'yashon chasidav avdav u'v'shirei David avdecha nehalelecha. Yachid Chelomim Melech Mishbach V'Dei Shemo Hadesh Ad Shemo Hagadol Baruch Et Adonai Et Melech Mehulal Batishbach. You may be seated. Continue page 136. Ashrei Yoshvei V'Eitecha Hodilu Chasela. Tehillat Adonai Bar Pi Vivarek Obasar Shem Kachol Elam Voed Vanach Nenevrech Yam Yatavi Adolam. Hallelujah. Page 141. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 El Bikacho, hallelujah, Berki Yahuzo, hallelujah, Vigvrotav, hallelujah, Karav, good love, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, beteka shofar. Hallelujah, beneve v'chinor. Hallelujah, betofu macho. Hallelujah, beminim v'yugav. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. V'tziotz le'shama. Hallelujah, it's Yotzei Trua, Kol and Shama, Tehallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Le'olam Amen V'Amen. Baruch Mitzion Shechein Yerushalayim Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael Sebne Levado. Baruch Shem Kavodo Elohim Melech Vet Kohoretz. Amen V'Amen. We continue on page 145. Nishmat kochai tevarech et shimecha hu Adonai Eloheinu. Mid melach mishvelach mi'aharoth lachoel hagadol gibor v'hanora el yon konei shemayim v'aretz nehela lechon shabechacha unferchem dorech Hashem hakodeshecha kamor leDavid parchi nafshi Adonai v'chol kerovai Shem hakodesho ha'er betazmozecha gadol bechavod shemecha hagibor lenetzach v'hanomenorodtecha Hamelech hayoshev hal kisei ram v'nisa shochen ad maharom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv ranenu tzadikim b'Adonai laisharim nava tehila b'fihi yesharim titalal uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach uv'yashon chasidim titromam uv'kerev kedoshim Tikadash u'makalot revavot machobet Yisrael. להודות, להלל, לשבח, לדבר, לברך ולקלס על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות. דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך, ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו. ברכות והודות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה מלכו לעולמים. We rise, page 149 for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. I am a Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Yotzer V'rei Choshech Oseh Shalom V'rei Hakol. You may be seated. We're on page 150. Hakol Yoduch V'Hakol Yishabechucha. Ein kerchacha avi ein zolatecha efes petchako limod lach. Ein kerchacha Adonai Eloheinu b'olam hazeh v'ein zolatcha malcheinu chayei olam haba. Efes petchako limod Mashiach v'ein do melech Mashiach letchiat hametim. Sorry, I'm a little off today. Page 151. Eladon akol amasim baruch umvarach b'viko neshama gadlo v'tuvo malei olam dat udvuna sova v'imoto hamid goel chayot hakodesh v'neder b'chavod al merkava Zichutu mishor lifnei chiso chesed v'rachamim lifnei chavodo atovim miyorot shebara Eloheinu yitzharam bedat bevino uvaskel koach ugvura natan bahem liot moshlim bekerev zevel meleim zivam mefikim noga nae zivam b'chol ha'olam Semechim b'tzeitam v'sasim b'voam osim b'yemach etzon gonam b'er v'chavod notnim lishmot tzala v'china l'zecha malchuto kara l'shemesh v'yizrach orha v'hiki tzurata v'na shevak notnim lo kol tzava maron Tiferet Gedula Serafim Ve'ofanim Ve'chayot HaKodesh, page 152. La Ela Sheshavat Mikol Masim Bayom Hashvit Elav Yeshev Kisei Chavodo. Tiparach Moshino Shavach Masedech Ve'amaresh Asit Yofaru Chesela, page 153. Tiparach Sureinu Malkin V'Golem B'rei Kedoshim. Ve'chulam Potchim Et Piyam B'Kedushat Torah B'Shirav Zimra Varchim Shabachim Varim Maritzim Umaktishim Umhamlichim Et Shehem Moel Amelech Hagadol Hagibor Vahanora Kadoshu Vechulam Kablim Aleim Omachut Shemaim Zeh Mizeh Venotrim Reshut Zeh Lazeh Laktis Leotza Menachat Ruach B'safav Ravdim HaKadosha Konim, I mean, the year Kevodo V'ofanim v'chayot HaKodesh Parash Kedom Menatz L'matzarafim Nimatam Mishabachim V'amarim Baruch Kevadonai Mimkomo La'el Baruch Nimot Yiteinu. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir v'nizkeh kulanu meher le'oro. Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir v'nizkeh kulanu meher le'oro. Baruch ata Adonai Yotzer Hamiot. Page 154. Avarabba Avdanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Lagedol V'techa Chamalta Leinu Avinu Malkeinu Ba'avor Avotenu Shabbat Chuvecha Avinu Malkeinu V'telamden Chukei Chayim Kein Techanenu Plamdenu Avinu Ha'avarachaman Hamrachim Rachim Aleinu V'tein Belibenu Lehavin Lavinu Lashki Lishmoa Lilmod Lilamed Lishmor Velasot O Kayem Et Kol Divrei Talmud Toratecha B'Ahava Ve'ha'enenu b'toratecha v'da'abek libeinu b'mitzvotecha ve'yached levavenu le'ava u'yira et shemecha ve'lo nevosh le'olam voed ve'lo nevosh Le'olam voed ki v'shem kodshecha Hagado v'hanura b'atachnu Nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha V'havienu le'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz V'tolichenu komamiyut Komemiyut le'artzenu Ki elpo Yeshua tata Uvanu v'charta mikoam v'lashon V'keravtanu l'shimcha hagado Selah be'emet Lahodot lecha U'lyachedcha be'ahava Baruch atah Adonai Bocher b'yamo Yisrael b'yava Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha Ve'hayu hadvarim ho'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinanetam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shachpecha v'kumecha u'kshartam niot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot b'ninecha Uchtav dam nam zuzot beitecha uvisharecha v'haya im shamo tishma'u el mitzotai. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'yamarta lehem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al kanfei v'gdehem ledoretam v'natnu al tzitzit hakanab p'tiyot achelet v'yalachem letzitzit Oritem oto uzhartem et kol mitzvot Adonai va'asitem otam v'lo tatu le'lavachem v'achareinechem asher temzonim achareihem leman dizgaru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kadoshim le'loechem ani Adonai Eloechem Asher hotzeiti etachem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. We're at the bottom, page 156. לדור ולא קיים ושמו קיים וחיסון נכון מלכותו וימנתו לעד קיים ולדברכם. אמת שעתו אדוני אלוהינו ולבטנו מלכנו מלך אבותינו גואלנו גואל אבותינו יוצר נצור ישותנו פודנו מצילנו מלם שמך אין אלוהים זולתך עזרת אבותינו אתה הוא מעולם. רם וניסה גדול ונורא משפיל גיא מגביה שפלים מוציא אסירים פורן אבים ויוזד עלים ויון אליהם וביית שבם אליו תהילות לאל עליון ברחם ברח משה ומרים ובני ישראל נשירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדור בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה שיר החדש שיבחו גאולים נשים קמו על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמלכו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל ובטחנו ממך יהודה וישראל Go Aleinu Adonai Tzavot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Ba'al Yisrael. We will chant the Amidah, first three brachot beginning on page 159 through the Kedusha, and then you can remain silent or recite silently through 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagedol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol v'Zocher Chastei Avot ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו ביאהבה מלך עוזר פוקד ומשיח מגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם מפקד צרם נתן גיבור ללמלנאי מחיים איתי תורה להושיע משיב הרוח מרים נגשם מחכה חיים בחסד מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסירים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמעתי שמותו משמי מרום כך כתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך הארץ כבודו אז בכל רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנשאים למצרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מכינו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב, בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים. ויעננו תירנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. על ידי דוד משיח צדקך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושך נקדיש. ושיבחך מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלכנו וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. ישמח משה במתנתך אלוהים. And we will now transition to our virtual Torah service, page 168. Please rise when it says when the ark is open. Please rise. I'm someone here. Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai v'ein k'maasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim. וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. אב הרחמים היטיבה ברצונך את ציון. תבנה חומות ירושלים, תבנה חומות ירושלים. כי בך לבד בטחנו, מלך ערם ונישא, אדון עולם. ויהי בן אהרון Vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, V'yafutzu oyevecha, V'yanusu misanecha, Mipanecha, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Udavar Adonai, Mihirushalayim, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Lemo Yisrael, B'kedusha Tov, page 170. Barich Shemei Damari Alma, Barich Yitrach Yatra. Be'anarachet Velishmei Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Naimar Tushbechan Be'anarachet Be'anarachet Velishmei Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Anaimar Tushbechan Yehirava Kadamach Netitach Libi Be'orayata Betashlim Mishalin Delibi Belibo Decholamach Yisrael Letavukayim Belishlam Amen. Page 171. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Alul Adonai Yitin Ramema Shemo Yachtav Lecha Adonai Agedula V'hagevura V'hatiferet V'hanetzach V'hahod Kicho Bashamayim Uvaretz Kicho Bashamayim Uvaretz Lecha Adonai Hamamlacha V'yamid Nahaseh Lecho Lerosh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'ishtachavu Lahadam Raglav Kadoshu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'ishtachavu Lahar Kadsho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. You may be seated. Something caught my eye here. So, 31:18. There we go. Okay, come on. Thinnest papers on these things. Okay. So I want to point out one thing. I'm not going to read this particular portion. I'm going to actually jump ahead to our triennial. If you turn to page 523, and I've talked about this before, it's just an interesting way of understanding how the Torah is not read literally. Okay, it's not translated literally, and even our classical commentators tell us that we are not supposed to interpret each word because there are metaphors, there are turn of phrases, that idioms, if you will, that are in the text, and unless you understand what the idiom is, I'll give you an example in this first two verses. Vayedaber Adonai Moshe lemor, the Lord spoke to Moses saying, Ki tisat rosh b'nei Yisrael lefkudetam. I'll just read the rest of it. Nu ish kofer v'nafsho l'Adonai b'fkod otam lo yeh vahem negav b'fkod otam. Okay, so it's really at the front. It says Ki tisa et rosh. Okay, and literally, if I was to translate literally, it would say when you lift the head of the children of Israel, to count them, to ascertain their numbers, and you shall, every man will give a ransom for himself, where the word Kippur, Yom Kippur comes from, an atonement for himself, so that nothing bad happens. But that phrase, Tisa et Rosh, I think I've talked about this before, many times maybe. It's an idiom, and this text was written 2,000, 3,000 years ago. We don't know, and idioms change. Okay, what it's an idiom, I guess, in Shakespeare English, would not be the same for today, and our idioms would not be good for them. Words change meaning. The word nefesh to us means soul, and yes, it does translate as soul. But the idea of the soul is different in biblical mind than it is for us. The soul always is attached to the body and goes down into the grave with the body. That's biblical understanding of what that word means. But when they say nefesh, they mean life. It's the life. So you shall love the Lord your God with all of your life. Okay. So what can this possibly, and if you look over in the translation, it says census. How do you get Ki Tisa et Rosh, and you shall lift the head, and understand that as taking a census? You remember what I said before? No? Okay, that's okay. I love this. When a people, there are two censuses done in the Torah, okay? And interestingly enough, when they're done and the number of the Israelites hasn't changed in 40 years, almost to the number, they have to take a census. They have to count the people. Well, in Judaism, we know we don't count people, okay? If you go into a synagogue and they look for, they need to find if they have a quorum, they can't count 1, 2, 3. Okay, they say not 1, not 2. Okay, or they come up with a verse that has 10 words in it and use that. But in biblical times, they didn't have that luxury. They still needed something to count 3,550, whatever the number is. It's a lot. You can't go not 1, not 2 and get up there. So how do you count? Okay, so it's unlucky, it's bad to count people because there might come about a plague because you counted people. And I think that happened to Solomon or somebody, I can't remember exactly. So if you don't count people, how can you count them? What are your options?
You can count silver.
Count silver, okay. Do the people have a lot of silver, you think? They might have a little bit. So they could count the half shekel, a machatzita shekel, which the text says, which is a weight of silver, and it can't be that much because every Israelite is supposed to. Actually, it's only the men. So they're taking a census so they know how many men they can field and when there's a war. So how do you count the silver? So people give you a piece of machatzita shekel, a half a shekel, and that counts each tribe, how many people are in each tribe, how many Levites, how many Kohanim, and so forth. So on the coin, usually when it's a minted coin, what's on the coin? On the front. Which usually what's on a coin in ancient society would be the head of an emperor or the head of the leader. Now, Israelites, yes, we didn't make representations of people, so they had, palm trees and pomegranates and things like that. But normally you would see the head of the empire, okay, on the coin, some type of potentate. And so what they do, you give me a half a shekel, I am lifting the head that's on the coin. So, which is kind of odd, okay, but that just tells me that trying to translate Torah is very, very difficult. I'll tell you when a translation goes awry, and I know I'm not getting to this. This is when a translation takes on a different meaning because somebody wasn't understanding the context. And I was looking ahead to see if that's in this portion, but I don't remember. Hold on, let me just set up from here. Just a second. I believe when Moses came down, but I think when he came down the second time, that when he came down, it said his face shone like the rays of the sun. Okay, it uses the word karan or koren. Okay, and that word means ray of sun. Moses had to put a veil on his face so that people wouldn't look at him and be blinded. Okay, for whatever that means, his face shone like the rays of the sun. The word Karen gets translated somehow, I'm not sure, I don't know ancient Greek, but when we get to the Septuagint, the first translation of the Bible into another language was Greek, and we call it the Septuagint or the Pentateuch, and it said that the leader of Alexandria asked 70 rabbis to go in a separate room, translate the Torah into Greek, and what a miracle, they all came out and they all agreed with each other. How unlikely is that? But then going ahead many centuries, you get the situation in Christianity when they want to translate the Old Testament to Latin. And of course, they didn't read the Hebrew Bible, they read the Septuagint. So they translated from the Septuagint into Latin. And that book is called the Vulgate, by the way. So words can change meanings, okay? Karen has another meaning. You know what the other name for Karen is? Horns, okay? In ancient society, apparently, horns were a sign of the head military person in a society, the one who had the most power. He had horns. I guess they had a coat of horns. Didn't the Vikings do that? Somebody had a hat with horns on it. I think it might have been the Vikings. I'm not sure.
I thought that was invented by later people and attributed to Vikings.
Is that right?
That's what I heard.
Which one?
The horn helmet was like by Wagnerian opera.
How interesting. How interesting. I just read a commentary on this word and what horns meant. Remind me after services, I want you to read this article because I printed it out and it was fascinating. Because it does say that was a sign, and I don't know that you now came up with something that contradicts that. But when you get to the Vulgate, apparently, when Moses came down the mountain, his face didn't shone with rise of the sun. He had horns. Okay? And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just, that's why I'm saying it must have had a positive image at some point. I don't know. Maybe they knew opera. I don't know. But this is how, and of course later on, horns get associated with the devil. It's perfect. Jews have horns. There was an advertisement in late 19th century. A Jew who had immigrated opened up a store, and he proceeded to make advertisements so people come into a store. And he just made a joke out of this. He said, "Come to my store, see if the owner has horns, see his horns," and apparently people did, and apparently people today still do, which is really anti-Semitic, but that's a whole different thing. All right, let me read one. I'll do one only. I really didn't mean to get off track like that, but that's me. First aliyah is Exodus 31:18, which is on page 529. And Vayitain et el Moshe kivaluto ledaber ito behar Sinai shnei luchot haidut luchot even ketuvim be'etzba Elohim vayar aham ki voshesh Moshe laredet min hahar vayikach el ha'am al Aharon vayomeru nelav kum aselanu Elohim asher yelachu lefanenu ki zeh Moshe ha'ish asher lanu me'eretz Mitzrayim lo yadanu ma yalo vayomer alehem Aaron parku nizmei azav asher ba'oznei neshechem b'nechem ubnotechem v'havihu elai vayitparaku kol ha'am et nizmei azav asher ba'ozneihem vayavihu el Aaron vayikach mi'adam v'yatzaroto b'acheret v'yasehu egel masecha vayomeru ele Elohecha Yisrael asher elucha me'eretz Mitzrayim vayar ha'aron vayiven mizbeach lefanav vayikra Aaron vayomar chag l'Adonai machar vayashkimu mimocharat vaya'alu olot vayagishu shlamim vayeshev ha'am le'echo b'shato vayikumu letzachek. This is Exodus chapter 31, verse 18. When he finished speaking with him on Mount Sinai, when God finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave Moses the 2 tablets of the pack. The Eved Ketuvim, Luchot Even, of the pack, stone tablets inscribed with the finger of God, Be'etzba Elohim. When the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered against Aaron and said to him, "Come, make us a god who shall go before us, for that man Moses who brought us from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has happened to him." Aaron said to them, "Take off your gold rings and that are on your ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." All the people took off their gold rings that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. This This he took from them, cast in a mold, and made them into a molten calf. And Egel Zahav, let's see if it uses that phrase. And they exclaimed, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and Aaron announced, "Tomorrow shall be a festival of the Lord." Early next day, the people offered up burnt offerings and brought sacrifices of well-being. They sat down to eat and drink and then rose to dance. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Hurry down, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt have acted basely. They have been quick to turn aside from the way that I enjoined upon them. They have made themselves a molten calf and bowed down to it and sacrificed to it, saying, 'This is your God, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt.'" How far does this go? I think I went too far, didn't I? Yep. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So of course, this is the part of the Torah where Moses goes up the mountain for the first time. Somehow they know he was supposed to be gone 40 days and 40 nights, and they started counting differently than Moses started counting, and they thought that he should have come down that day. In fact, it was the next day that he came back. That might be why Aaron said, "Wait till tomorrow," because he knew his brother would come back. So on its surface, and what happens after this? Moses comes down the mountain, he takes the 2 tablets, he smashes them on the molten calf, and he causes the Israelites to drink from the molten. And a plague happens, a lot of people are killed, and I believe it was at that point that the Levites stepped forward and defended Moses and Moses and the tablets of stone that he brought down to them. And eventually, everybody cools down, and then Moses goes up the mountain the second time. And he goes down up the second time. That's where I was looking for this to find. No, I can't find it, unfortunately. So he goes back up a second time. God says, "I made the first tablets. You make the second one." But again, God inscribes on it the words of the pact. We call it, some people call it the Aseret Divrot, or the 10 Commandments. But it's understood that Moses came down with the entire written Torah. At least that's the rabbinic tradition. That he came back not with the 2 tablets, but many other tablets that had the Torah inscribed on it. And then the people waited apparently the second time. So they apparently had remorse, and they were sorry for what they had done. But it looks like the Israelites need a physical representation, some type of physical representation, to know that God is in their midst. So God takes note of this. And he says to Moses, "Make this Mishkan. Make this visible feature, the Mishkan, which contains the altar and the candelabra and the shulchan, the table of shewbread. And that is where the Israelites are to offer sacrifices. And that is their representation of God." If the Israelites had gone 3 days just out of Egypt, straight away, and defeated the Canaanites, we wouldn't have the Mishkan. We wouldn't have the temple. Or maybe we'd have a different representation of it. Don't know. But this is the Torah tale. Okay. So I'm going to end there. Sorry, I got off track. Really got off track. All for Mishaberach for those in and out of our community in need of a blessing for healing. Mishaberach Avotin Avram Yitzchak Yaakov Sarv Korach Avaleh Hu Yivrech V'Rapeh Et Marjorie Allen, Charles Miller, Leon Kapwana, Lynn Shoah, Kay Bowie, Esther Scheuer, Suzanne Urbala, Deanna Barber, Susie Bierman, Elizabeth Fomby, Malka Amster, Betty Ehrlich, Michelle Zucker, Davina Machado, Steve Hirschman, Taraz Bat Ruth, Marsha Hudson, Billy Canary, Taylor Browning, and Jacob Mullis. Noah Argamni. I have no idea, Charles. Noah Baron, Gittel Tamar Bat Miriam, Nami Rivka Bat Gittel, Yael Bat Nami Rivka, Sarah Shoshana Bat Nami Rivka, Ephraim Abraham Ben Esther Bat Yah. Yeah, I did the best I could on that name. Viet Kolchim Bekila Kadosha Agudath Ezrat Chaim Betemple Beth Or HaKadosh Baruch Hu Malei Rachamim Aleim Lachazkam Chapetam Vishlach Leim Erfuishim Mishamayim Ufutum Nefesh Urfuat Haguf Betoch Shach Leisraf Shabbati Amlizok Urfuat Karav Alavash Tabagalav Zaman Kari Venomar Amen. I wish all of those suffering a refuah shlema, a quick and complete healing. We rise, page 183, to return the virtual Sefer Torah. Hallelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado, hodo elevetz b'shamayim, vayaren keren le'amo, tila lecho, chasidav, livnei Yisrael amkarovo. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Mizmor LeDavid, Avul Adonai ben Elim, Avul Adonai Kavod Vos, Avul Adonai Kavod Shemo, Ishtach Avul Adonai behadvet Kodesh, Kol Adonai al Hamayim, El Kavod Yirim Adonai Hamayim Rabim, Kol Adonai Bakoach, Kol Adonai Behadar, Kol Adonai Shover Arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et Alzei Halbanon, Vayarkidem Kemo Egel, Lebanon Syrian Kemo Ben Vehimim, Kol Adonai Chotzev Lavotesh, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yechol El Ayalo, Vayechesot Yahavod, Vayechalo Kulo Omer Kavod, Adonai Lamabul Yashav, Yeshev Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Le'amo Yitain, Adonai Yevarech et Amo Shalom. Page 184. Uvnucho Yomar. Ki lekach tov natati lachem torati al tazovu et chayimi lamachazikim ba betomcheha meushar tirachea dachenoam v'chol netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha Shuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. You may be seated. This week we find the Israelites in the desert 40 days after God revealed himself to Moses at Sinai. Up until this point, they've been accompanied by visible signs of God's presence, plagues, and miracles. A pillar of cloud and fire, a visionary leader. But now Moses, their sole connection with God has been gone so long, longer than promised, and the abandonment and fear are more than the Israelites can bear. Aaron's role, it would seem, as leader and soon to be priest, would be to teach them faith and assurance in the face of doubt, but he fails miserably. Make us a God who will go before us, they tell Aaron, and he does. Many of us would find it difficult to excuse Aaron for his role in the sin of the golden calf, but his weak character and seeming loss of faith in the God he's supposed to be serving are disappointing and maddening. And it is unclear as to why he's let off the hook so easily. He doesn't get punished. He still gets to become a priest, and none of the ramifications of his actions mentioned later in the Torah are attributed to this golden calf incident. And when looking for anything regarding Aaron's support for building an idol, we find only compliments about his character. Aaron was a peacemaker, it says in Pirkei Avot. He loved all human beings, and they all loved him back. And we learn from a midrash, a human being we can understand, forgive, and love. Rabbi Gunter Plaut writes, excuse after excuse is made for Aaron's actions. He made the calf to stall for time. Rashi teaches one midrash says the Israelites threatened to kill Aaron, and he didn't want them to be guilty of murder. Okay. The commentators go to almost absurd lengths to defend Aaron, leaving us to wonder not why don't they see what a nebbish, it's a weak, ineffectual nobody Aaron was, but rather we are so intent on faulting him. After the golden calf incident, God threatens to no longer travel in the midst of the Israelites. Near the end of the Parsha, Moses begs God to show his presence, and perhaps most significantly, when the golden calf festivities broke out, God tells Moses to descend from the mountain because the people have acted poorly. This is as if God was reminding Moses that he's their leader and that he belongs with them at this time of crisis, not off alone on a mountaintop, communing with the divine, while they're down below, losing faith. While Aaron and his failings could be blamed for the Israelites' transgression in this parsha, Moses' absence was as much to blame. Perhaps the rabbis recognized the importance of being present for and with one's community, of keeping a community together and remaining in its company in times of crisis, abandonment, loss, and doubt. Aaron did well to remain present for his kahal, his community, but perhaps because of his own loss of faith, he catered to the Israelites' faint-heartedness and was ultimately unable to bring God's presence back into their midst. That would have required a different kind of presence, which Moses hints at when he intercedes to protect Israel. Moses asks God to remember our patriarchs, as if to say, remember our ancestors who were not so quick to give up on you and build themselves a new God. We are those people, the ones who wrestle and persevere. During the times that try our souls, we don't have to be models of perfect faith, but we do have to model struggle, hanging in, not giving in. We need to turn our own struggles into an opportunity to struggle together. This is how we can best be present for our community when they or we are faced with a sense of divine absence. May our own community be strengthened by what we learn from their example, and may we, through presence and shared struggle, help bring God to us. Shabbat Shalom. We'll now continue with the Musaf Amidah, which begins on page 185. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Hoel HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Dovim L'Konei Hako V'Zocher Chasdei Avot ומביא גוי לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר פקד ומשיח ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם מפקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסירים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוכם בעל גבורות, ומדום מלך ממית ומקיים, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמנת על החיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני בחיי המתים. נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש. המקדישים שמך בקודש, כך כתוב היד לביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו, כבודו, מלא עולם, משורתיו שואלים, זה לזה, איה מקום כבודו, לעומתם, ברוך יאמרו, Baruch Adonai Mikomo Uyifen Barachamim V'Yachonam Yachadim Shemo Erev V'Voker B'Chol Yom Tamid Pamayim B'Ava Shma Omerim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad ואלוהינו אבינו ומלכנו ומושיענו ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית והנה כוחה להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהייך ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתה נקדיש ושיבחך מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד כי המלך קדוש וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. תיקן ששבת רצית קורבנותיך ציווית. And we continue page 204. Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemokenu, ein Kemoshienu, mi Keloheinu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemokenu, mi Kemoshienu. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Imokenu, no del Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Tahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru, Avahotenu, Lefanecha et Ketoret Hasamim. We rise, page 205, for Elena as the art principal. Elena l'shabeach ladon hakol latek gdula liotzer bereshit shalo asani k'goyei haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishmachot hadama shalo sam b'chelkeinu kahem v'gora leinu k'chol hamonam v'anachnu korim mishtachavim umodim l'fnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, She'onate Shamayim v'yosed ha'aretz, v'Moshe v'yikarahu b'shamayim ima'al, u'shchinatu zo, b'govei meromim, u'Eloheinu einod, emet mokeinu evazulato, kakatu b'torato, V'yadat Ahayem v'ashevota el vavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim nima'al v'al ha'aretz mitachat einod al-king. Yagadu b'toratech Adonai loch lilam v'oved v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz bayom ma'u yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You may be seated. Well, I got through one song that I didn't butcher. Okay. I'd ask for your money back. This week we observe yard sites for Terry Aronoff, Morris R. Franco, Yale Friedlander, Rebecca Center, Jerry Finkelstein, Philip Plotka, Harvey Taffet, Biola of Zaradel, Victor Raphael Saracen, Boli of Zaradel, Edward Morris Franco, Ethel Goldblatt, Victor Morris Hannon, Barbara Kramer, Max Steinberg, David and Varon, and Nissim Bitan. Those observing yard site and those who mourn, please rise to page 207 and join me for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba b'yomah divrah chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayichon v'yimechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agalav zman kariv v'yimaru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam omen maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitchomam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu le'lam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran b'yomah v'yimaru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. You may be seated. Thank you for joining us for our Shabbat services. I'm so glad I only have to do one more song. I need you guys to help me. Services for Havdalah will be via Zoom tonight at 6 p.m. Following week, we're moving to 7:30, but tonight it's going to be at 6 p.m., our last one early. And that's with the Alabama Community Virtual Havdalah. If you don't have a link, please email me and I'll get you the link before we start. There is religious school tomorrow at 9:30 here at Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem. And there is Monday and Thursday minyan at 7:15 with breakfast following. We have a unique and really interesting and really exciting, actually, opportunity this week. We have a group of Masorti and conservative leaders that are coming to Montgomery. They're going to be davening here Wednesday morning, having dinner on Wednesday night, and they're going to come on Thursday and daven and eat with us. Anyway, but the person who's leading the group is Rabbi Amy Eilberg. It probably doesn't ring a bell to any of you, but she is the first female rabbi in the conservative movement from 1983. I'm so thrilled to meet her. The movement went, anyway. So if you want to come and meet her, this is a great opportunity. And I don't think it would be any problems if you wanted to come Wednesday night and have dinner. And then they'll probably have speak afterwards. I don't know what they're going to do. Just to meet her is all I need. Let's see, what else is going on? I did have to mention one other thing. No, I don't. Oh, March 10th. Oh, I'm not going to mention that till next week. Time change. Okay, so we will conclude our service, page 211. Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ed nasa v'chefso kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharei kichlat hakol levado imloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yiyeh b'tifara V'hu yiyeh b'tifara, v'hu echad v'yein sheni, l'ham shelo l'hachbira, b'li reshit, b'li tachlit, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, v'lo ha'oz v'hamisra, v'hu eli v'chai go'ali, v'tzor chevli b'yetzara, V'hu nisi umanosli minat kosi biyom mekra minat kosi biyom mekra biyado afki ruchi biyet ishan v'yaira v'imaruchi gaviyati Adonai li v'lo ira Adonai li v'lo ira Shabbat